Now, this pandemic has created, and unfortunately continues to create, uncertainty. How do you tell your team, given all this uncertainty, how to make purchases, and then what factors to think about when making the purchases?
Well, the first thing that happened, Jeff, and another great question, we had to make sure everybody was on the same page within our department. You know, Vallen, we have a couple things going on. We have our centralized purchasing area, and then we also, our branches have the ability to buy non-stock items. And so we had to make sure that as we set policy, as we decided what we were bringing in, new items to replace some of our key items, for example, Lysol wipes, Clorox wipes, toilet paper. We had to make sure, right, all the substitutes we had to go through very quickly. We had to make sure that everybody was on the same page, and we didn't have, you know, people going off and doing their own. So very first thing we did to make sure everybody knew what was going on, we centralized all of the items that we called COVID related. And we actually set up a separate category for COVID, and we called them coronavirus high risk items. So we centralized that very quickly to control who was buying what the needs were, and with the ultimate goal of really trying to service our clients to the best of our ability, and to make sure we had one voice working with each of the suppliers, and not having to manage any other noise from our colonies, if you will. So we did that, and that was really good. And then we realized that we needed to really, again, we set up that separate product line and rework our dashboards, because in Slim 4, you know, we have our regular items, and then we had the items that had gone on allocation and were really showing very poor service levels for us and fill rates. So we decided right away to split those out and to start measuring. We froze our database, then we split out. We took one picture in time as what the whole inventory health looked like. Then we split it out to manage this high risk group along with the regular inventory side of things. And we made sure that we put forecast collections in place, that we were looking at the forecasts that changed by plus or minus 5%, and then the ones that were really erratic, changing by plus or minus 35%. And then our planners and our purchasers are planned, if they see anything that might be an anomaly, they would reach out and call that business unit owner to find out what was going on, so that we could make really, really good purchasing decisions. Some of the other outlying factors that are truly important in a pandemic, and we've lived the whole pandemic, face mask, the whole piece about counterfeit, it's been in the news. We've lived through it. We had many, many, many sleepless nights wondering if we did the right thing. And you know, that whole supply and demand curve was in play. High demand, low supply, you're paying exorbitant amounts of money for these masks, extremely long lead times. When we first air freighted in our first masks, the air freight costs were extremely high, and you have to be very, very careful, because if you buy too high and you bring too much inventory in and the market price drops, which it did because face masks are now at pre-COVID pricing, you could get stuck with a lot of high-priced inventory that customers are not prepared to pay, which could be a loss for companies. So you really got to be careful, and you've got to be able to predict demand in an environment that is completely unpredictable, and your customers don't know either.
And you said the terms had been changed even too. You were having to pay up front instead of, so working capital gets affected.
Working capital, we had to pay in some instances 50% up front. This was an anomaly for Sonopar Canada. I think for Sonopar in general, we had to figure out an approval route pretty quick. It happened very quickly. Again, it's risk. You're assuming risk with manufacturers that you haven't dealt directly with before. You've got to make sure that the decisions you're making on those substitute products, that the sales team have had input in it. Your customers are hesitant to buy because it's not a Kimberly-Clark item. It might be a different item, so everybody's hesitant there. So many market dynamics, which we've just shared. The counterfeiting, having your team work from home It's not like you can get up from your desk and just go say, hey, what do you think about that? Because I'm exceptional at interrupting people at their desks. Now you got to call, and they might be on another call. So that adds something different and really important. One of the big factors is what's going on in the geopolitical environment. The DPA has impacted our business greatly. We're trying to do an import now for gloves that are medical grade, and there's a whole lot of regulations, and the regulations are changing, maybe not daily, but they are changing weekly. But the regulations between China and Canada, with all of the dynamics there, they're changing daily. Actually, with some masks that we thought we were going to get out, there's been now another delay. They're going for repackaging a third time because the rules and regulations are changing, and this is our daily life.
Oh,
If that paints
wonderful.
a picture.
Yes, yes. So, and you touched on a couple of these things. So with the uncertainty that compounds that, you have people working at home, all these factors you just mentioned, how did the communication change both internally within Vallen and then to your suppliers and customers?
Well, that's when you know that in order to stay ahead of this and to be the best that we could be for our customers, and to be successful as Vallen, we just realized that we had to communicate and over communicate. So we started communicating with the sales leadership every day, and then we made sure that we took some of the items that we needed, the territory managers and the other sales teams and the business development people, then we brought them in to help us make decisions. Then we brought in the branches, and then we brought in all of the customer service representation, so that we made sure that we were all on, and our category managers, our inventory planners, our buyers, everybody was a part of this to know where we were going, where we were having challenges. So we were meeting with these groups up to 3 times a week, and in some cases 3 and 4 meetings a day, and so that we could all keep communicating. And sometimes it wasn't enough. People still didn't get the message. And sometimes people need to hear things 7 times in order for it to stick. So we started all of these communication groups and teams just so we could stay all united and we could work collaboratively together, and it worked very, very, very well. And we're taking that now. We're continuing on. We've dialed back on some of those meetings, but they're certainly there. In communications with suppliers, this is where you need to be very, very good at communicating. It's not enough to hide behind an email. An email with a supplier, in my mind, is not a strong relationship. You still have to pick up the phone, be on camera with that vendor, because we found in one of our product lines that we were buying retail product when we had a whole offer of industrial products to us. And we talked about the difference between retail and industrial, so we had available to us a set of products we didn't know. So you've got, as a product manager, you've got to be able to know your sources, know what your options are, stay close to the suppliers and manufacturers, and really, really develop those really strong relationships.